back to another edition of The Preview. I'm Adam Kulikowski. I'll be your host, the one feeding all the questions to our expert on the other side of the glass, Andy Shea. On tap in this week's edition, right into the second week of the postseason. Tons of great matchups on tap. Here's three that we're going to take a closer look at.
Yeah.
In District 3, 5A action, we'll break down Cedar Cliff's matchup against Shippensburg. In District 3's 2A championship game between Upper Dauphin and York Catholic. And District 11, 1A championship game between Williams Valley and Tri-Valley. Andy, welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk week 2 playoffs. Let's do it. We got some rest in peace Tri-Valley League. We're going to talk about 3 former Tri-Valley League teams. So
Yes.
Rest in peace Tri-Valley League.
Yes.
Great small school league. Sad that it went away, but yeah, we're going to talk about Upper Dauphin, Williams Valley, and Tri-Valley. So let's do it.
Yep. And before we jump into that, I'm just curious. First week of the postseason, we had a historic victory with Big Spring. We had a few upsets, which you very skillfully predicted in another piece that you wrote for fourthdownmagazine.com. I'm just curious on your take on what we saw before we jump into this week's actions. What did you learn from week 1 of the postseason?
So it was the one thing I took away was it was easy to find chalk, and it was easy to identify favorable matchups for seeds that were in a little different place than you might think based on who they were and what they were football wise. But so it was a lot of hold, serve, and chalk, and you expect that in the first week. The biggest surprise was Hempfield absolutely gobsmacking CD East. Yeah. So that was, it's, first year coaching staff, new head coach. There's a learning curve that comes along with that. And they got schooled on, what playoff football looks like. And they were a little banged up and, they didn't have quote unquote every asset that they needed. That's not the reason you lose 35-2. It's just a contributing factor, but so
tons of potential there. Great.
There is.
Yeah, it was great season. Hats off to CD East.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing going to change. Nothing changes the season because of that. It was disappointing. I thought they were a little better prepped to play in the playoffs because of the style of football, and it just didn't play out that way. Hempfield just took them behind the Speedway woodshed and said, bang, bang, bang. No, soup for you.
I'm a Seinfeld fan. I love that reference.
Yes. Puffy shirt. I said it.
Love it.
Greatest episode ever.
Marine biologist for me. But anyway, let's hit the road. Let's go to Franklin County, where number 3 Shippensburg, the 10-0 Greyhounds, will host the number 6 Cedar Cliff Colts. Andy, give us your breakdown on this game.
So for all the accomplishments in terms of facing a variety of offense and pretty much coming up with a way to keep them, kind of step on them and keep them under wraps and keep the games the way they like them. And I'm talking about Shippensburg. Cedar Cliff, I think, brings one element to the table that I'm not sure the Greyhounds have necessarily had to deal with or experience yet. They have a couple wideouts. They're athletic and they're football fast in open space, and they know how to run routes and get themselves open. Ethan Durrell's thrown for 1,400 yards. Wideout Trenton Smith has more than half of those receiving yards. So that's going to be a factor, I think, in this game. I think Ship quarterback Tucker Chamberlain he's thrown for 1,100 yards this season. They're very comparable quarterbacks in this game is my honest opinion. And I'm just throwing this out there. Is this going to be a quarterback battle, perhaps? I think it could end up looking like that. And I will say this, with the depth in the Keystone division being so weak, right? And the Colonial division group sort of providing more of a better week-to-week test overall, I think these two teams are on fairly even ground in terms of, how they were prepared for this. I think Cedar Cliff is better in some aspects, but I think Shippensburg has had to get better week and take care of their more business on a higher level week to week. So I like that both teams have this ability to take what a defense gives them and just kind of roll with it and go there. I still think Ship is the favorite, but it's only a slight favorite. And for me, this is a toss-up all the way. Don't forget, Shippensburg's answered the bell at every turn, and I think that really, really matters.
Interesting. And that Colts offense, Dante Morris, obviously a key to that,
Yep.
even with Ethan Doyle. What are you doing if you're the Greyhounds to try to limit the damage that Morris can do?
So I think Morris he didn't have a blow up game last week, right? In the win over Lower Dauphin. Like he did it several times during the last month of the regular season. He just absolutely blew up. But I still think he played a very key and valuable role for the Colts in that 31-18 victory over LD. It was more of a balanced offense with the passing game and the running game doing more equal damage. I think that's what carried Cedar Cliff. And if you remember and look at the Colts back in the first month of the season, that was their sort of MO as Morris was sort of getting his sort of football sea legs under him. So I think that was kind of what Lower Dauphin asked of them and sort of took a little bit of the Morris blowing up away. So for Ship, this is the best running back and the rush offense they're going to see that they've seen this season. There's no doubt about it. And it's not a small gap either. I think it's by a wide margin that they haven't seen a back or running offense like this. And it's not even close. The Colonial Division in 2021, they did not have an abundance of quote unquote sort of teams that can be and are willing to be run heavy with a feature back like Morris. They haven't seen this. So what am I going to do if I'm the Greyhounds? I think you have to make a choice, right? What is your strength as a defense? Lean on that and try and make the Colts one-dimensional. Either way, offensively, whether you want to take away that balance that, comes in the passing game and you kind of want to make Morris beat you, maybe that's your strength. You got to lean on your strength. So I think you're going to learn a lot at another level about the Shippensburg defense this week. That's just my 2 cents.
Great breakdown there, Andy. Give us your prediction on this game.
Yeah, I like Cedar Cliff in a toss-up game in my book. Colts are good in big games. Shippensburg hasn't shied away from anything this year at all, and they've answered the bell every time. That's really important. I think the Colts defense, I think they kind of have to be a difference maker against the Ship offense to help clear a path for a second playoff win this year. So I think that's going to be really important. It's a literally I see past the victories for both teams. So when I see that, I go with a toss up. So I'm just leaning on, I think there's just a little bit more at what both teams are good at that favors Cedar Cliff.
Okay. Next up, let's go to District 3 2A championship game, Upper Dauphin, Central York. Andy.
Oh, York Catholic. I'm sorry, York Catholic.
York Catholic. Sorry.
That's okay.
Upper Dauphin, what a wild game last week that they played against Columbia. They got here, Andy, by the skin of their teeth after putting up a big set of numbers in the first half. Then sort of, got that lead got salted away a little bit. Andy, what should we know about this game?
So here's what I'll tell you: York Catholic beat Susquehanna 43-7 last week. Upper Dauphin beat Susquehanna 40-8 a month ago. Those results tell me these two teams have plenty of evenly matched elements heading into this championship game. That's a great common opponent to look at that's inside of a month, and the results are nearly identical. So these are, two evenly matched teams. Your Catholic junior quarterback, Levin McFadden, he's a dual threat. He's a big-time dual threat. He's thrown for 700-plus yards, and he has more than 600 rushing yards with 20-something touchdowns. And they have a running back in Andrew Adams. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. So they have a complement to their dual threat quarterback. And York Catholic's defense has surrendered fewer than 100 total points in 10 games. So it's Upper Dauphin coming at them with waves of backs, 5 of them who have 300 or more yards, but nobody has more than 1,000. So they flood you with options, literally. It's hard to keep track of where the ball is going. I mean, just ask Columbia, right? They couldn't figure out where the ball was going, and they couldn't stop it in the first half, particularly. So I know Upper Dauphin's defense gives up more points, right? But I would counter and say they've played a much better schedule overall this season than York Catholic. So for me, this game comes down to which defense pushes back and makes it a bit uncomfortable for the other offense. I was certain the Trojans were going to be in a shootout last week, matchup wise. I think this one's a little bit more inside their comfort zone, and I think it's a comfortable place to be for York Catholic as well.
And we touched on that big first half that Upper Dolphin have, and then barely surviving in that second half. If you're Coach Kent Smelts, what do you hope your team learned from that experience that they could carry forward into this?
Well, you hope they learned that when Coach Smeltz said they knew they couldn't stop Columbia, he wasn't joking. But no, seriously, I just say that kind of jokingly, but he was like, we're not gonna be able to stop them, I don't think. And you couldn't, and they couldn't stop you. So, that's what, that's exactly what I thought the game would be. Seriously though, you're not going to see another quarterback wide receiver combination like that. So relax, gents. That was a one-off game. This one is equally as difficult, but for completely different reasons. And if you're Upper Dolphin, you're telling your kids, we've seen an offense like this, and we know what we need to do. We hadn't experienced much of that at that level with a QB wide receiver combination that Columbia brought to the table. We aren't equipped to play that. We are equipped to play this, excuse me. So I think they're in a little bit more equal footing this week.
So Andy, who are you taking in this game?
So I'm going to pick Upper Dolphin. I thought Columbia was they were my pick to win 2A, right? So I thought they had the firepower to win it all. They do have firepower. They just couldn't stop Upper Dolphin's waves that come at you. And Upper Dolphin beat them in a wild, weird, and record-setting game. So I'm going to pick the Trojans. It's close, but I see equal paths to victory for both squads. So, but I'm just going to ride Upper Dolphin, and because I think they can't be beat right now.
Very good. Very good. Let's do one more before we get out. This is the District 11 Class A championship game between Williams Valley and Tri-Valley. These two teams met 2 weeks ago, Andy, what I'm deeming the Mud Bowl. It was filthy. It was exciting. I love it. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I know the kids didn't really enjoy it. It was fun to watch them run around in the slop. But Andy, give us your prediction on this in a weather that's going to be a lot better when this matchup kicks off.
So for starters, I completely disregard that 14-0 game 2 weeks ago.
Right?
It was, I just, the only thing to do is disregard it, because the result was sort of mostly as a result of the conditions, and that's irrelevant for me now. So the physical advantage that the Bulldogs have over the Vikings was only going to be accentuated by the slop in the rain, right? And it was. So the other thing I want to say, I want to bring up, why isn't this game in Williamstown or Higgins? I mean, they do neutral sites in District 11, so the game's at North Schuylkill, okay, but that doesn't mean I have to like it, right? I do not like it. This game is better in a town. Neutral fields, just for me, I'm venting here. It robs this game of that extra layer of life, in my honest opinion. But the bottom line for me, if I'm looking at this game football-wise, Tri-Valley's given up 60 points in 10 games. The last time anybody scored on them was Pottsville Nativity on October 8th. So they're riding a 4-game shutout streak. That doesn't change overnight. I don't know if that's going to change here. Maybe the shutout streak stops, but one of those shutouts in the last 4 was in the slop against Williams Valley. So this Bulldogs defense, they just kind of suck the life out of an opponent, right? Like, the other teams feel they kind of feel like they're not really playing all that bad, but you can't get anywhere. And like, it's early in the second quarter, and you're like, it's 14-0, and we're not playing all that bad. We're kind of executing, but we're not getting anywhere. And if I look on the horizon, based on the last 15 minutes we just played, it doesn't look very good. So that's what I mean by they suck the life out of an offense. So that's what they do. That's a factor, and I think that's in play big time in this game.
Okay, Andy, give us one player on each side that's a key for their team to come out of this game on top.
So I'm going to give you a combo. It's the Tri-Valley running back combo of Cameron Wetzel and Jake Scheib, right? They're both juniors, by the way. More than 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns. Combined, they have 7+ 100 yards games. They're a two-headed monster behind that offensive line. They're hard to control, right? That's the difficult thing, is you don't really find a way to control them. They're after this many games, they're impossible to stop, but can you control them? That's the hard part. So for them, for Williams Valley, it's a quarterback, Isaac Whitehash. I mean, he needs to somehow use the pass game to get this Tri-Valley defense a little wobbly, or dare I say it, maybe even a little on tilt. He's thrown for 1,200 yards. He's got 12 touchdown passes. I'm not saying you don't run the rock if you're Williams Valley with your 1,500-yard rusher and Alec Akamak. You run him. But what do you get out of your quarterback in the pass game? I think that's going to be critical for them.
Huge for them. Andy, what's your prediction?
I'm not picking against Tri-Valley with a defense like that in November. Would you?
Well, Andy, I'm 20 games behind you in our weekly picks and predictions. So I might, but that should not be, that should say a lot about what my prediction is worth compared to yours.
Yeah, no, defense in November, give me them. I'll take them.
It's hard to pick against Tri-Valley in this game with that defense. It absolutely is. Well, that's it for this edition of the preview. Get out to see one of these games or another on the slate. Support your local teams and check us out at fourthdownmagazine.com for all of our weekly content. Andy, see ya.
See ya.